I'd like to welcome everyone to the Subcommittee on Federal Lands first hearing of 2024 and the committee's first joint subcommittee hearing of this Congress. I can think of no better way to start out the year than by holding a hearing that highlights the need to rein in out-of-control agency spending and keep this administration accountable for the responsible stewardship of taxpayer dollars. We're holding this hearing today because as members of Congress, we have no greater responsibility than ensuring that taxpayer dollars are spent appropriately. And as Americans, we all enjoy our national parks and want to ensure that they are left in better condition so our children and grandchildren can experience them as we did. 4 years ago, the National Park Service had a total deferred maintenance backlog of nearly $13 billion. Since then, that backlog has increased by nearly $10 billion to more than $22 billion. This increase occurred despite billions of dollars of taxpayer investment to improve and maintain our parks through the Great American Outdoors Act. You heard that correctly, folks. Despite spending billions of dollars to reduce the deferred maintenance backlogs at our national parks, those backlogs increased dramatically. Many Americans, including myself, who expected to see the wide-ranging effects of the Great American Outdoors Act, have been left disappointed. When we visit our national parks, we still see too many closed trails, leaky roofs in visitor centers, potholes in parking lots, and decrepit bathroom facilities. In my district, Apostle Islands National Lakeshore has received some funding through the Great American Outdoors Act this past year, but more than 73% of Apostle Island's backlog remains unaddressed after 4 years of the Great American Outdoors Act. The Federal Lands Subcommittee has made it a priority this Congress to conduct vigorous oversight of the Great American Outdoors Act to get to the root of this problem so that we can right the ship and start seeing the improvements we all want to see in our national parks, including the Apostle Islands. To that end, we have invited the Honorable Mark Greenblatt from the Department of Interior's Office of Inspector General, Mr. Cardell Johnson from the Government Accountability Office. Both the Office of Inspector General and Government Accountability Office are independent watchdogs that have recently released reports on the National Park Service's deferred maintenance backlog that contain shocking and disturbing evidence of mismanagement. According to the Inspector General report, the data that the National Park Service uses to track its deferred maintenance is inaccurate and unreliable. This is hardly surprising considering the Inspector General also found that the National Park Service inappropriately added a blanket 35% markup to its deferred maintenance total without any proper justification. If this was the private sector and a company inflated its profits by 35% without proper documentation, its CEO would go to jail. Yet in the federal government, this is being treated as business as usual. I'm also deeply concerned with findings that the National Park Service is not adequately monitoring completed deferred maintenance projects, particularly projects that immediately affect the health, life, and safety of members of the public. There are simply too many instances of the National Park Service failing to address these critical work orders or putting temporary fixes in place that do nothing but let the problem fester for years while the backlog rises. In total, the Inspector General found evidence that the National Park Service backlog is being overinflated by just over $4 billion. It's billion with a B, through a combination of markups and completed deferred maintenance projects that are still on the books. Although the National Park Service is undergoing the process of updating its methodology for calculating its deferred maintenance, as referenced in the Government Accountability Office report released earlier this week, the committee has outstanding concerns that this alone will not bring the transparency needed for an issue as important as this one. I want to thank both Mr. Greenblatt and Mr. Johnson for joining the subcommittees today and discussing the important findings your organizations have uncovered. I look forward to hearing your testimony